The Panthers think the next step for left tackle, Ickey Ekwonu, is consistency. Ickey Ekwonu is one of the most nitpicked and scrutinized players on the entire Panthers roster. The name I hear most when people try to justify Bryce Young's slow start last year to his career is Ickey Ekwonu. Well, he had Ickey Ekwonu not blocking anybody. Ickey Ekwonu getting him killed. Ickey Ekwonu, Ickey Ekwonu, Ickey. Panthers offensive line coach Joe Gilbert thinks this is the next step for Ickey Ekwonu. Here he is.
Ickey is obviously all his consistency, and he's a guy that wants it. He works hard, and that's the biggest thing for me that I've been working with him is just trying to be more consistent on a daily basis. He's fun to work with. He's got a great personality and that part of it, but it's the everyday of just being consistent and telling them, hey, the great ones do the same thing over and over again, and they get really good at it, and I think that he's starting to buy in. Honestly, today, and I haven't watched the tape yet, but really kind of saw him for the first time kind of slow down and really kind of try to take that home a little bit, which has been a progress through camp. But I think he's getting there, Are we there yet? No, but I think he's getting there for sure.
Consistency. I love a good analogy, right? Matter of fact, somebody at the event last night said it's an inside joke with him and one of his buddies that I guess he's in the car with a lot around this time, that when I give an analogy, they rate it out of 10. So if I do like Seth Jarvis's signing is like a shark attack, they listen to it, then they look at each other and go like 7.5 out of 10. They rank the analogies. So I've got another one coming your way. All right, get ready to rank them if you're listening. Telling an offensive lineman that they need to work on their consistency is kind of like telling a chef they need to work on cooking good food. Like, that is the entirety of the job. Offensive line is consistency. That's like telling an offensive lineman the next step is being a good offensive lineman. Like, that's the game. That's it. That's the whole thing. Yeah, the next step for our pitcher in being a great pitcher is he needs to start pitching better. That's basically what you said. Last year, the Panthers ran roughly 67 offensive snaps per game. Okay? 67 offensive snaps per game. If you say that's 30 passing attempts, we'll call it 30 passing attempts. If Ickey allows a sack on just one of those per game, he has allowed... Actually, I think it's 1.5. If he allows 1.5 sacks per game, he has allowed more sacks than the Bills did as an entire team last year. 2% of snaps. If you have 2% of snaps where you have a brain freeze, where you're not consistent, and you give up a sack or a rush or a hurry, you are the worst tackle in the business. Offensive line is about you can't be good most of the time. You can't even be good nearly all of the time. You have to be good all the time. That's the sport. Wide receivers, I'll use another analogy. This is before your time, Graham.
All right.
The early seasons of American Idol. My mom is a big American Idol fan. Still watches to this day. Around that time. Yeah, around that time.
Second season, Ruben Studdard.
Yep, that's Clay and Ruben were second. I think it was probably maybe season 3, maybe. There was a singer by the name of Anwar. Okay, Anwar Robinson, I think was his name. This is off the top, right? So, if I'm missing the name a little bit, hear me out. Anwar was my pick, right? Every year, because the family, my mom liked to watch it, we would watch all of the auditions. Then when we got to, I think, top 24, you would pick like whoever you want, and Anwar was my guy. Anwar had the best strategy ever. He could hit the big note. He would sing mediocre for 2 minutes. Then that final note would last 18 seconds. It would be way higher than anyone else could go. And the judges would only remember that last 18 seconds, and they'd give him glowing remarks. And he made it, I don't know, like to the top 6.
They'd only remember the final lyric to Somebody to Love by Queen.
It's just, I'm not even going to try because I can't sing. But he would just save it with like one good note. Wide receivers can do that, right? Wide receivers could have 10 bad routes. They could have 10 times tapping their head to go to the sideline because they're tired. They could have 10 times the quarterback misses them, bad throws, But if they have one touchdown catch every game, they're a Pro Bowler. Right? One great play by a wide receiver every game, Pro Bowler.
I mean, think about how many people still geek out over the Odell Beckham one-handed catch from how many years ago.
If you make 2 great plays a game, you'd be out there all 67 plays. If you make 2 great plays a game as a wide receiver, one of them's a touchdown, one of them's a 35-yarder. If the touchdown's another 30 yards, you have well over 1,000 yards. You have 17 touchdowns. You're all pro. Offensive line is the exact opposite. You make one great block, that means nothing. You can make 20 great blocks. You could have 20 pancake blocks. If you give up 3 sacks, you're the worst tackle in the league. So it blows my mind for them to look at Ickey Ekwonu and say the next step is consistency. That's the only step. If you don't have consistency, get off the field.
I was going to say, isn't that why you go up against the standalone practice dummy every day in practice, or you go against the offensive line or the lineman coach that's holding the pad for you to go up against?
Yeah, it's the reason you do anything. The reason you work out in the offseason as an offensive lineman is to be consistent. The reason you study film is to be consistent. By the way, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could play offensive line. You get none of the star treatment. You get none of the accolades. You get none of the protections, right? Quarterbacks you can't touch. Wide receivers you can't hit. Running backs get to score all the touchdowns. Like everybody else gets everything. You have a job that is thankless and you can't make anything wrong.
Yeah, when you get 3 pancakes in a game, I mean, that's not a key highlight. That's just you doing your job as an offensive lineman.
And if the funny part is, if 67 offensive plays, if you have 65 pancakes and those 2 plays go poorly, that's a terrible game.
Right.
Even though your percentage, right? Like imagine a shooter in basketball. If you make 60 out of 62, the 2 are all anyone remembers. That's the life of an offensive lineman. Now, I'm not saying it's a fun life. Obviously, they're well compensated. I'm not saying it's the right way it should be, but to turn around and be like the next step for this guy is consistency. It's like, all right, so you're saying he physically can block people occasionally.
I mean, one of the reasons why I love college or football in general is I love those 3rd-and-1 plays where they're not going to try to do anything special in the offense. They're not going to try to go for a little slant pass. It's just going to be your running back line up in the I formation. Our guys are better than your guys. We're going to go out there and make the tackle or make the block.
I mean, that's the fun part for the offensive line. Actually, there's a good move right there, right? The fun part for the offensive line is
when it's like 3rd and goal,
run blocking, and everybody knows it's a run. Every other time, you got to just do your job, and it doesn't always have to be the cleanest, right? Sometimes the best thing an offensive lineman can do is get run over slowly, and sometimes that's enough to do your job. But every single play, you have to do your job. Can't turn around and say, I need to work on my consistency. That's not how it works.